Today we're gonna take a look at one of the most hyped shows of recent years, Demon Slayer. And what is every Demon Slayer fan's favorite thing about the show? Right, Nezuko. But right behind her are the strongest Demon Slayers in the world, the epitome of strength and wisdom, the Hashiras. So let's take a look at all of them and rank them from weakest to strongest. If you disagree with anything on this list, then sucks to be you. Cry about it. Slight manga spoilers up ahead. Alright, we're starting this list off with Shinobu. And look, while I do like her as a character, she's definitely the weakest in raw physical strength and even having a special katana created for her just because she couldn't cut the demon's neck. Her family was killed by demons. Shocker, I know. And she became a demon slayer along with her sister, who was basically the only person who could handle her personality. Her sister later became the Flower Hashira before being slain by the Upper Moon 2, Doma. So Shinobu can't cut off a demon's head, so instead she decides to just become a walking pharmacy. She uses poison-based attacks, insanely fast movement, and strikes demons with perfect precision, in order for her to overcome her physical weakness. Which in itself deserves much praise, but just isn't enough to pose an actual threat to the strongest in the verse. She in a way did defeat Doma, but not really. However, you do have to attribute her plan to her intelligence, because she realized that she could never beat Doma in a normal fight, so she resorted to poisoning herself way ahead the fight to defeat him in the long game. This shows just how smart and tactical she really is. Moving on to a probably controversial pick on the list. Next up is the successor of the donut style, the Flame Hashira, Rengoku. Some people probably think that he should be way higher, and trust me, I get it. He's one of the most beloved characters in the anime, but if you're ranking strictly by overall combat ability and feats, this is where he realistically lands. Rengoku comes from a line of Flame Hashiras, and after his father retired, he took on the role of the Flame Hashira. Before his mother died, she taught him to protect others with his talents. However, the passing of his wife caused his father to fall into a deep depression, using alcohol to numb the pain and causing him to neglect and hit both of his children. Despite that, Rengoku pushed forward alone, no mentor, no supportive household, just him and his desire to save others. Rengoku's style is powerful and explosive. He specializes in overwhelming offense and has ridiculously high stamina. Because of his strong urge to protect the people around him, he has some phenomenal determination showcased in his fight against Akasa. And his fight against Akasa is why everybody loves him so much. Akasa is upper rank 3. Someone who casually deletes Hashira level fighters. And yet Rengoku somewhat held his ground, adept at mid-battle, and with his incredible grit and determination, even nearly managed to deadlock Akasa into being in the sunlight. Akasa even acknowledged his strength and offered him to become a demon. But after taking a second look at the fight and leaving emotions out, I think that he really didn't have much of a chance actually beating Akasa, which is the main reason why he's below the next person on this list. And now, it's so sad to see him this low on the list, but it is what it is. It's the GOAT, the king and manifestation of flamboyance, Tengen Uzui. Tengen was born into a family of 9 children within a shinobi clan. 3 of the children died before they were even 10 years old. This happened due to the harsh training their father put them through. The remaining 6 of his siblings were forced to kill each other on their father's orders, without them knowing who they fought because their faces were covered with masks. Tengen realized his father's trick only after he had already killed 2 of his brothers. By the age of 15, 7 of his siblings had already died, leaving only him and his younger brother. After escaping the village, he turned into a brighter and happier being, and even taught his wives to value themselves, which went against their teachings as kunoichis. His sound breathing is one of the most unique styles in the series. He converts the sound waves that his enemies create into musical notes to read the patterns, predict movements, and breaks down enemies' attacks like a rhythm. Combine that with his dual sword style, insane mobility, incredible speed, and flashbangs, and you get a flashy fighting style that overwhelms everything around him. In the Entertainment District arc, he made Daki look like an actual filler character. and he was fighting Gyutaro on an even playing field while poisoned, while he was protecting Tanjiro and the gang, and while literally missing an arm. And he still managed to win after he analyzed Gyutaro's fighting style to his full extent. When I first saw him in the anime, I thought that he was just an arrogant prick that was going to get off in a few chapters. Or I was hoping for that. But he quickly became one of my favorite characters after showing his true self. Next up at number 6, the roided up monster stuffed to the brim with trend. It's Mitsuri, the love Hashira. Mitsuri's ridiculous strength and unusual muscle density made it hard for her to fit in growing up. She eventually joined the Demon Slayer Corps because she wanted a place where her weird physical abilities actually counted for something. And it turns out being able to casually lift boulders is pretty helpful as a Demon Slayer. Love breathing works perfectly with her flexibility and mobility. She's fast, agile, and fights with a special whip-like sword that basically turns close range combat into a nightmare for demons. In the swordsmithing arc, Mitsuri holds her own against one of the clones of Upper Moon 4. He overwhelms most fighters instantly, but Mitsuri tanked multiple sonic attacks, shockwaves, and direct hits and still got back up ready to fight. She saved Tanjiro from being eliminated more than once using her speed to intercept multiple attacks. She's incredibly powerful and physically gifted. But compared to the fighters above, she's less refined and less effective against top tier demons. Of course, easily one of the strongest in pure muscle power, but she lacks in technical finesse, and for me that puts her just outside the top 5. At number 5 we have the child prodigy Tokito. On the surface he seems distant, distracted, and almost like he's just not fully there. But in terms of raw talent, he's probably the most gifted fighter of the entire corps. He became a Hashira just 2 months after picking up a sword, which already tells you everything you need to know about his natural ability. Tokito grew up in the mountains with his twin brother, Yuichiro. The two had completely different personalities. He was kind, while his brother was harsh. One night, a demon attacked their home. Yuichiro was fatally wounded while protecting him, and Tokito, driven by rage and shock, killed the demon himself. The trauma caused him to lose much of his memory and emotional connection to his past, which explains why he later comes across as cold and detached. Over time, pieces of his old self returned, and with that, more clarity and purpose. Misbreathing focuses on obscuring movement and confusing the opponent. His style relies on sudden shifts in speed, subtle footwork, and making his attacks difficult to track. He relies heavily on speed and fluid transitions, overwhelming opponents by making it impossible to track his real position. Once he activates his Demon Slayer mark, his already insane talent jumps to another level. Tokito defeated upper rank 5, solo, mid-div. After unlocking his mark, he completely overwhelmed him. That alone puts him in extremely elite territory. Even further than that, he also plays a major role in one of the final battles. He's definitely one of the strongest Hashiras, and his young age makes it even more impressive. But for me, he still ranks slightly lower than the rest. At number 4, we have Obanai Iguro, the Serpent Hashira. He doesn't have insane raw physicality, but is significantly faster and sharper in technique, endurance, and big fight performances. Obanai was born into a corrupt family that worships the snake-like deity. And from the moment he could walk, he was treated as nothing more than a future sacrifice. He grew up locked inside a cell, fed barely enough to survive, and watched his own relatives willingly give children away just to keep the demon satisfied. When he finally turned 12, the demon decided it was his turn. He was eventually rescued by the Flame Hashira of the era, but the guilt of being the only survivor haunted him for the rest of his life. Serpent breathing is all about angles, misdirection, and unpredictable strikes. His sword bends and curves mid-swing, letting him attack from weird directions that opponents struggle to read. Kaburamu, his snake, acts as another set of senses, detecting incoming threats and helping Obanai track enemies' positions. Without spoiling too much of the manga, I can't talk much about his feats, but just know that this dude deserves to be up here, just because of what he did in the final battle. Honestly, I really struggled with the placing of these last 3. The way it is now is because Mitsuri didn't actually perform too well against Upper Moon 4, and Tokito fought against Upper Moon 1 even though he performed worse than his allies. And I ranked Obanai above them because of his performances in the final battle. I even briefly thought about putting Obanai above the next Hashira, which is the man, the myth, the socially challenged legend, the water Hashira, Giyu. Giyu's sister sacrificed herself to save him from demons, but back in his town nobody believed the story, labeling him as mentally ill, which led to him running away from home, leaving him isolated from a young age. He was found by Tanjiro's teacher, who trained him in Sabito to become demon slayers. During the final selection, Giyu passed out for most of the trial, and Sabito was the only kid to not survive the selection, which led to Giyu having yet another breakdown, resulting in him being closed off and isolating himself even more. Water breathing perfectly matches his temperament. His fighting style is smooth, controlled, and incredibly precise. He doesn't waste a single movement. Every strike is measured, every step deliberate, and he maintains complete composure even in the most intense battles. His signature technique, the 11 form Dead Calm, embodies this perfectly. A defensive form that shuts down enemies' attacks through flawless timing and unwavering focus. In his battle against Akasa, Giyu holds his ground impressively well. He adapts, keeps a cool head, and forces Akasa to acknowledge him as a worthy opponent, which is something very few Demon Slayers can claim. And one of the most impressive achievements, Giyu created Dead Calm entirely on his own. Hashiras almost never invent new forms, so the fact that he developed his own technique shows just how high his mastery of the water breathing truly is. At number 2, the in my opinion second strongest Hashira in the world is the Wind Hashira, Sanemi. Sanemi is Genya's older brother, and his childhood was rough. At a very young age, he watched his entire family get killed by demons. But not just any demon, it was his own mother, and to save him and his brother, he had to stop her himself. The trauma hardened him and turned him into the edgy demon slaying machine we see today. But the thing is, hidden behind those tweaker eyes of his is one of the most loyal and protective characters in the series. He'll do anything to protect his brother, and even if he seems impossible to get along with, he deeply respects his fellow Hashiras. Well, most of them. His style is really aggressive, fast and brutal. On top of that, his physical stats are elite. Speed, strength, reflexes, stamina and insane durability. Dude's built for non-stop fighting. He also has very rare blood, which acts like premium grade demon drugs. It's so intoxicating, it can weaken demons just by smelling it. Although this effect is stronger for weaker demons, it still affects upper moons. He fought alongside Gyomei against one of the strongest characters in the whole series, and he was also involved in the final battle. And Sanemi not only keeps up, but pushed those insanely strong characters to the absolute limit and forced them to take him seriously. He tanks injuries that would have ended other Hashiras and fights until the absolute end. Sanemi looks like the kind of person who accuses you of breathing too loud, but there's no denying his insane skill. He's a monster in combat, but there's still one guy above him. And finally, at number 1, he's as blind as a bat, the uncontested GOAT, the strongest Hashira, is to probably no one's surprise, Gyomei. Gyomei was born blind. His mother died from childbirth and his father died to an epidemic. When he was a late teenager, he lived with 9 children who were orphans and he raised them in a rundown temple. The area the temple was in was well known for demon attacks, so Gyomei told the kids to stay inside at night, but one night one of the 9 children disobeyed the rules and went outside only to be immediately attacked by a demon. And in order to save his own life, the kid betrayed Gyomei and the other children. The demon attacked the temple and 4 children were immediately killed by the demon. And the other children insisted on escaping the temple, ignoring Gyomei's order to stay behind him. They were killed by the demon as well. Gyomei believed that his weak stature and blindness led to the children to distrust in his ability to protect them. Only one child had listened to him and hid behind him. Gyomei fought against the demon after realizing he had a frightening amount of power. He went on and beat the demon's ass until the sun rose. Gyomei masters storm breathing, and even though he is a demon slayer, he doesn't even use a katana. He used a spike flail and axe connected by a chain. Why? Because the strongest does what he wants. He wields the extremely heavy weapon with amazing accuracy and speed. With his enhanced hearing replacing his sight, his spatial awareness is unmatched, even unlocking the see-through world. The same ability that Yorichi wielded. He senses speed, distance, vibrations, and enemies' intent with terrifying accuracy, and he's built like a tree. At the very start of the Infinite Castle raid, Gyomei was the first Hashira to attack Muzan after the leader's sacrifice, charging through fire and immediately smashing Muzan's head. All of Gyomei's other actual feats are manga spoilers, but let it just be known that without him, the Demon Slayers wouldn't have had a chance during the Infinite Castle raid. He's without a doubt the strongest Demon Slayer of his time. So there we have it. Maybe you agree with my list, or maybe you despise me now. If your list is any different, I'd love to hear it. I will gladly tell you that your opinion is wrong. No, all jokes aside, I'd love to hear your takes on the matter. That's all for today. See you next time and stay safe. Bye.